identify funds to be able to help, one, make sure there's adequate security for Edward Waters College. We are not going to allow these institutions to be targeted by people. Just know that the state of Florida stands with the community. Help is on the way. God bless you all.
There is nothing more disgusting to me than a rocket raccoon, and it looks like there's a couple of people there. You know, there's a lot of people who want to save face and they want to shake his hand as if he is not culpable for what happened here. He literally struck the match for this. Governor Ron DeSantis caused this loose cannon to blow, because he is the one who said Florida is where woke comes to die. And if you know anything about the history of wokeness, it is in our community, the African American community, where we are very woke to the system that we are held to, which is very and vastly different than what others are held to. We know Donald Trump, who's the former president, was brought up on RICO charges. He is out of prison. He posted bond. He's free to do whatever he wants to do and campaign for the 2024 election, right? So let's take that to Young Thug, who was brought up on RICO charges, and he's still in jail to this day. That is what I'm talking about two different systems. The video of me talking about two nurses, one, Lucy Ledby. I showed a snippet from Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, where a nurse said that a man who was in pain to everybody around her, that he was pretending and he didn't need medical help. And after finding out he needed medical help, she said she would have done the same thing because she didn't believe him and she wasn't going to help him, and she would have let him die. She didn't care about his life. She doesn't care about melanated life like that. But I don't know what it is with some of us where we allow them to gaslight us like this. And to have, I don't know who invited him there, but I am so happy that people were speaking up and booing him. He should have never been there, since he was the cause of this. He put this in that man's head, that he could come and he could kill woke in Florida. Ron DeSantis put that out there. He's been putting it out there for months that this is where woke comes to die. So therefore, this is why the 21-year-old drove there to Florida, came there to Florida so he could kill woke. We all know woke is a dog whistle for thug. It is a dog whistle for black, African American, Negro, colored person of color. That's what woke is. But Ron did this. And he had the nerve. You can see how stiff he was walking up there, because it was the audacity of him to even walk up there knowing he caused these people's deaths. It was his rhetoric. People will say, well, Donald Trump was responsible for January 6th. No, he wasn't. Donald Trump did not say, storm the Capitol. He didn't say that. He can make claims of things that he believed all he wants to. He didn't make them storm the Capitol. But Ron DeSantis said this is where woke comes to die.
Thank you to the greatest First Lady in all 50 states. For being a great wife, giving unwavering support, being a tremendous mother to our 3 young children, and serving as an example for women throughout this state, especially going through the battle of cancer. She is remarkable.
I had to pause it right there because did anybody notice that she didn't want to kiss him and he kissed the side of her? I have a joke, but I think it's too soon. I think she thought that she may be gone and wouldn't have to be married to him anymore. But anyway, it's the body language. It's not giving loving. It's not giving caring. It's giving get away from me. It's giving Donald Trump's wife.
Now, today, Now, today is the culmination of the 2022 fall elections, but in reality, Americans have been voting for many years now. They've been voting with their feet, and the results of that behavior has been just as stark as our landslide victory today. States and cities governed by leftist politicians have seen crime skyrocket. They've seen their taxpayers abused. They've seen medical authoritarianism imposed, and they've seen American principles discarded. The woke agenda has caused millions of Americans to leave these jurisdictions for greener pastures. Now, this great exodus of Americans, for those folks, Florida, for so many of them, has served as the promised land. We have embraced freedom. We have maintained law and order. We have protected the rights of parents. We have respected our taxpayers, and we reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
That was 9 months ago. Florida is where woke comes to die. And if you have been keeping track of Florida, this is not about migrants. This is about DIE, diversity training, talking about racism, talking about Black history, them banning books about Black history, and they like to mix it with the LGBT. That's just a cover. Florida is where woke comes to die, and people have died behind this. Hopefully that will make them stop using the word.
People have come here because our policies work. Leadership matters. We refuse to use polls and put our finger in the wind. Leaders don't follow, they lead. We set out a vision. We executed on that vision, and we produced historic results.
He's made some changes, and those changes are crippling the economy of Florida. Not only are those changes crippling the economy of Florida, but those storms are coming through. They're rolling through, doing a drive-by, crippling the economy of Florida. He has blood on his hands. He is responsible for this with his disgusting anti-Black rhetoric. Who wants help from an enemy like him?
It rejects merit and achievement, and it advocates identity essentialism. We reject this woke ideology.
Okay, I know I just got into this video, but the identity of the United States of America has been colorless Europeans since it was snatched away. So now it's a problem when other people want to separate and they want an identity for themselves that's not caught up in this crazy patriotism towards terrorism and murder. Because he's setting up here out of glorifying the United States. How can one glorify the United States when this is stolen land and so much blood has fertilized this land to be what it is today? So the cost, the human cost of Native people, Black people, and others, the horrific cost behind the hospitals, the banks, the insurance companies, everything you see has the blood of Black people just smeared all over it. And to take land from people who were already here and say we had a vision for this great nation, it didn't involve you people. So we're going to go ahead and do an extermination job. And because we're lazy, feckless, and diseased, and we don't know how to work the land because we got rid of the people who do, so let's bring in these skilled people and have them work the land because our flat asses are too lazy to do anything and we can't. And we're going to die off. But he's glorifying this. So it's like when I say it's a Christian nation, how can you sit up here and spout all of this Christianity love, but then out of the other side of your mouth, you are glorifying terrorism and inhumanity, killing, raping, stealing? How does one do that? What level of cognitive dissonance must you have to do that? To look at the horrific things that have happened to so many people that don't look like you because you don't care. But how can you just being logical, look at that and glorify it? Because it's done every 4th of July. It's done every year, like clockwork. It has been done every year for hundreds of years. And then become shocked when somebody says, I don't celebrate that. These are not my forefathers. I don't care about America. America disgusts me. And I could care less if it fell into a black hole. Then they're disappointed. They're hurt because you can't see their vision where it's beneficial to them, but it was never beneficial to you and you're not happy for them. How sick, how twisted, how off. But yet this is the mind that has a strong hold in this system. And we're trying to sit up here and act surprised that it is the way it is right now. And then other people who are colorless, who didn't get the golden ticket, are surprised that they're being treated like those people over there.
We seek normalcy, not philosophical lunacy. We will not allow reality, facts, and truth to become optional. We will never surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
That was 8 months ago, where Florida is where woke goes to die. He kept saying it so many times. I think there's one for 6 and 5 months. He kept saying it until somebody came to Florida and killed woke. Now we have a definition of what woke is. Nobody can get out of this definition. He came there with his gun and he took his little, his little pencil and wrote on his gun a swastika. He wrote out his manifesto and he let everybody know that he wanted to take care of Eminem and Machine Gun Kelly because they were rejecting who they were and they were all ingratiated into the woke culture. And if he had anything to do with it, he was going to make sure woke died. And he did.
Now, Florida's success has been made more difficult by the floundering federal establishment in Washington, D.C. Federal government has gone on an inflationary spending binge that has left our nation weaker and our citizens poorer. It has enacted pandemic restrictions and mandates based more on ideology and politics than on sound science. And this has eroded freedom and stunted commerce. It has recklessly facilitated open borders, making a mockery of the rule of law, allowing massive amounts of narcotics to infect our states, importing criminal aliens, and greenlighting the flow of millions of illegal aliens into our country, burdening communities and taxpayers throughout the land.
The nerve of him. Florida thrives with these undocumented workers. How dare he? Many a company in Florida flourishes because of undocumented immigrants. Now, look, I'm not taking up for immigrants because I have a problem with the issue in Chicago and how they were able to secure millions of dollars for these people. But Black people have been trying to secure this money for them and they are citizens of this nation. The nerve, that's a whole different topic. But the nerve of these people who are so against immigrants, but within their companies and their friends' companies and these politicians in their states thrive off of immigrant labor. Cheap labor, exploitative labor. And he's talking about the pandemic. Okay, when the second round comes, and it's worse because I can see people flocking to Florida because they think, oh, the state is going to stay open, my business is going to do well, and knowing how bad it's going to be. We'll see what tune he will be singing then, because he's being disrespectful to sit up here and talk about all of the people who have passed away from this. People sitting up here saying they don't believe it was real, it wasn't as bad as it was, and just saying this as if people didn't pass away. Just because you weren't close to the healthcare industry, these nurses were stressed out, people in the administrative end were scared for their lives. Depending on the capacity of which you worked, you were getting updates of people who passed away from this. They still send these out if you work in that field. And to see so many people who have passed away, and for him to make light of it, is disgusting. The businesses are the most important thing by far. Making the money is the most important thing by far, as if they could not help the citizens during times like this. But they're so feckless, they're so greedy, they're so soulless, they're so evil that they don't and they won't.
It has imposed an energy policy that has crippled our nation's domestic production, causing energy to cost more for our citizens and eroding our nation's energy security and, in the process, our national security.
The grid is old. No money has been put into infrastructure at all. And now this country is going to reap its greed. Things cost so much, not because of the pandemic, not because of so many supply chain issues, which I know there are, but there's not as many. It's price gouging. People are raising prices, and the very companies and organizations that they got on their knees for, they cannot control them and tell them to stop doing this to the economy. They cannot make them roll back prices. These people have been allowed to do what they want to do. And now it's out of control, and they've lost control of the reins if they ever had it.
It wields its authority through a sprawling, unaccountable, and out-of-touch bureaucracy that does not act on behalf of us, but instead looms over us and imposes its will upon us. The results of this have been predictably dismal. This has caused many to be pessimistic about the country's future. Some even say that failure is inevitable.
And I agree with them, because pride comes before the fall. They're saying they're going to rebuild. They're saying they're going to get better. It's going to get better. They are deep, deep, deep in a delusion. The fact that they can't see what's going on in the world and how things are not getting better and how it's getting worse, and how inflation and the economy didn't bounce back, and people did not, and these companies are being predatory. It's going to get worse. It is going to get worse. In 2024, April, I did notice that there's going to be like this eclipse, and we'll be able to see it. But if you, I believe it was 2017, if you notice the pattern of them, they go in an X across the United States. I do believe that is a bad omen. I don't think things are going to get better. They're going to get worse. There could potentially be another shutdown. The lies that they told about if you get poked, that it would stop and everything would get better. But it's not, because it is still mutating. There's been a rise in cases. Ron Desantis is delusional. And all the people who are going to run to Florida, they are going to wish they never did.
Florida is proof positive that we, the people, are not destined for failure. Decline is a choice. Success is attainable. And freedom is worth fighting for. Now, fighting for freedom is not always easy, because the threats to freedom are more complex and more widespread than they have been in the past. The threats can come from entrenched bureaucrats in D.C., jet setters in Davos, and corporations wielding public power. But fight we must. We embrace our founding creed that our rights are not granted by the courtesy of the state, but are endowed by the hand of the Almighty. Florida has led the way in preserving what the father of our country called the sacred fire of liberty. It is the fire that burned in Independence Hall when 56 men pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to establish a new nation conceived in liberty. It's the fire that burned at a cemetery in Gettysburg when the nation's first Republican president pledged to this nation a new birth of freedom. It's the fire that burned among the boys who stormed the beaches of Normandy to liberate a continent and to preserve freedom for the world. It's the fire that infused the young preacher's dream, relayed at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, that the Declaration of Independence said what it meant and meant what it said. All men are created equal.
I cannot believe this BS, and they still use these in their speeches when so much information is out there. Now, you heard him. He had to take a he had to take a drink when he said what he said, right? And he said that this has been endowed by God, and the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence and our forefathers and all of that, and this was a new birthplace. That you see how they romanticize terrorism. But if somebody does it to them, it's not so cute. It's the worst thing in the world. But they go around romanticizing the terror and inhumanity towards other people. And he said, for all people, that is a damn lie. It was for colorless people and colorless people only. But yeah, I can't listen to any more of this, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it right here. Let me know what you thought about his speech and these certain points in his speech, and I will see you in the next one.